Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Evaluate support and word choice, focusing on themes like sharing in the American dream. Today, you're going to step into the shoes of a lead investigator. When we read informational texts, it is incredibly easy to just passively absorb the information and accept whatever the author tells us as absolute truth. But to truly understand a text, you've got to actively evaluate the evidence and the language inside it. We're going to build your skills so you can figure out whether an author's support actually proves their claim, and we'll analyze how their precise word choices can signal hidden underlying viewpoints. Let's get to it.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, evaluating claims and support. Second, we'll learn a handy 4-step routine. Third, we'll look at the power of word choice. Fourth, we'll practice with a school community decision scenario. And finally, number 5, we'll recap and transfer those skills.
Section 1. Evaluating claims and support. Think of this Grade 8 standard as your official detective badge. It challenges you to delineate and evaluate an argument. What does that mean in plain English? Basically, assessing if the reasoning is sound and checking if the evidence is both relevant and sufficient. It also demands that you catch authors slipping in totally irrelevant details to make a weak argument look strong. And trust me, authors do this all the time. Sometimes accidentally, but often entirely on purpose. To really pull this off, we use something called a cognitive target from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. Specifically, critique and evaluate. You need to use this to rigorously test an author's claims, kind of like an energetic scientist testing a hypothesis in a lab. You aren't just reading for the overall gist anymore. You're critically examining the text from numerous perspectives to evaluate its overall quality.
Now, here's a massive misconception that trips up so many readers. There is a huge difference between relevant evidence and an interesting detail. Just because a detail is 100% factually true and incredibly fascinating doesn't mean it counts as relevant evidence for the specific argument being made. Relevant evidence has to directly explain or prove the specific claim. An interesting detail, well, it's just a true fact that keeps you engaged, but it totally fails to act as structural support for the actual claim.
Section 2. The 4-step routine.
So the crucial takeaway here is to memorize this 4-step toolkit so you can actively test any text you encounter. Step 1 is simple. Restate the claim in your own words so you know exactly what's being argued. Step 2. Label each piece of support. Is it a fact, an example, a statistic, or just reasoning? Step 3 is where you test that support. Is it relevant, meaning does it prove the claim? And is it sufficient? Is there enough of it? Finally, step 4, compare neutral and loaded word choices.
Section 3. The power of word choice. You know how the Library of Congress warns us to watch out for biased or misleading information in primary sources? Well, this standard requires us to analyze how precise word choices create a specific tone to do exactly that. We really have to look at the connotative meanings of words. That's the emotional baggage or the associations a word carries with it, completely beyond its basic dictionary definition.
Check this out. Watch how swapping just a couple of words literally injects bias right into a sentence. Look at the neutral phrasing. The group stated their preferences. Okay, now look at the loaded word choice. The group demanded immediate action. We haven't changed the core facts of the event. It's still a group communicating what they want, but the author instantly signals a strong subjective viewpoint. Demanded makes the group seem super aggressive or urgent, and it shapes your perception of them entirely through word choice.
Section 4. Practice with a school community decision.
Let's try it out. Read this created practice paragraph with me and keep our 4 steps in mind. The school board must fund the new community garden. Last year, 85% of students said they wanted more outdoor activities. Furthermore, the neglected plot behind the gym is an eyesore. A garden will transform this wasteland into an educational hub. So the claim is right at the beginning. The school board must fund the new community garden. Now, looking at the support, we've got a statistic about 85% of students, a description of the plot behind the gym, and a concluding statement about what the garden's going to do.
Okay, time for self-check number 1. Think critically here about whether the numbers actually prove the specific argument being made. Applying step 2 and step 3, which piece of support is a statistic? And is it highly relevant to the claim that the board absolutely must fund a garden? Take a quick moment to evaluate that. So, did you spot the trap where a perfectly true statistic was used as irrelevant evidence? The answer is the sentence, 85% of students said they wanted more outdoor activities. While it is definitely a statistic, it's really just an interesting detail. Why?
because wanting generic outdoor activities, which can mean literally anything from sports to just outdoor seating, doesn't specifically prove the urgent need for a garden. The author is just trying to use a large, impressive number to mask the fact that the evidence isn't actually relevant to the claim.
Awesome. Let's move on to self-check number 2. This time we're applying step 4 of our routine. How does the precise word choice in the phrase, "transform this wasteland," create a specific tone or signal the author's viewpoint? Look really closely at the emotional weight of the vocabulary the author selected here.
The answer? The loaded word wasteland creates a heavily negative, super dramatic tone. By bypassing neutral words like empty lot or unused grass, the author purposefully pushes a highly subjective, biased viewpoint onto the reader. It basically manipulates the reader into viewing the current space as totally barren and useless. And that's a very strategic way to persuade the board that funding the garden isn't just some nice idea, but a desperate necessity to fix a terrible problem.
Section 5. Recap and transfer.
Always evaluate support by verifying if facts actually prove the specific claim, or if they are merely interesting details designed to distract you. Rely on the 4-step routine to restate claims, label evidence, and rigorously test for relevance and sufficiency. Finally, analyze precise, loaded word choices to uncover an author's underlying tone and subjective viewpoint.
Now your turn to be the lead investigator. Here's your transfer prompt. Select an authorized informational text you are currently reading in class. Can you apply the 4-step routine to one of its main claims to reveal if the evidence truly holds up and what tone the author's word choices create? Go ahead and put your next reading assignment to the test, because if you aren't the one actively investigating the author's hidden motives, who's manipulating who?